Hey, everybody. This is Ron Fitch's Tell the Truth Sports Radio, and I'm going to tell you the truth about everything. There was so many things going on in NFL, Major League Baseball. What I'm going to do in my segments, I'm going to go World Series, I'm going to go NFL, then I'm going to go NBA, and then I'm going to go college football. So when you get this, like and subscribe. We got a lot. I got a lot coming up in the future. Hopefully next week I have Hassan Riddick. I'm trying to get him where we reached out to his people. Uh, so we shall see how that goes. My first segment is the baseball, the World Series is going to be Arizona versus Texas. I know nobody expected that. They thought it maybe be, I thought it was going to be the Braves in Houston. The Braves spit the bit to the Phillies, and the Phillies spit the bit to the Arizona Diamondbacks. So congratulations to the Diamondbacks. They gutted out a 4-2 win, and I respect how they took this game. Ryan Thompson was the winner, and Suarez was the loser. It was just pitching and clutch hitting. They they sprayed the ball over the field. What they did, they hit the ball. It looked like the Phillies were swinging for the fences, and Arizona was just hitting the ball, putting the ball in play. Christian Walker's a fielder's choice. Brom homers to tie the score. And when Brian Stott doubled in the bottom of the fourth, I said, uh-oh, Phillies got the lead. This could be trouble. Then the fifth inning, they jumped. They jumped on Suarez, who's been really good, but he wasn't that great. Corbin Carroll singled to center, and then Gabriel Moreno singled to right center. Corbin Carroll, Gabriel Moreno, Christian Walker. All these guys that you didn't know before the playoffs are come through, and they just did a terrific job. And then once they took a 3-2 lead in the fifth, that was trouble. And then Corbin Carroll hits a sacrifice fly to give them a 2-run lead. And what was big was they were up in the bottom of the seventh because Alvarado was bad. He's got to hold that game to 3-2 to give them hope. Because another run, they're in trouble. What's this 4-2? I said they're going to be in trouble. They have one chance, and if they don't tie this game in the seventh inning, this game was going to be over. And Christian Pache walked, which is almost inexcusable. Kyle Schwarber walked, and now Kevin Grinkle comes in, and Turner he just was bad toward the end of this playoffs. He flied out, and he was missing, just swinging at balls, and he was very lucky to even fly out. Now, Bryce Harper connected and flied out deep. He had 2 deep flyouts that he barely missed. And that was game. Once they got that inning, it was a wrap. And the Phillies went out quietly. And Ryan Thompson, because kudos to Brandon Fiat, who went 4 innings, rookie, and struck out 7, and he was good. Gave up 2 runs, kept him in the game. Ryan Thompson and Grinkle and Sewalt, when you get into that bullpen, and Texas got to realize this too, those guys are lights out. And the Phillies relievers were good, but they weren't lights out. And the Phillies were swinging for the fences, and they ended up losing. And congratulations to the Arizona Diamondbacks. And Ketel Marte was the star of this series. Carroll was great. Marino was great. Pham had a big home run. Gurriel was solid. This is the opposite of the Astros. They were all hit 275 and up. Pavin Smith was solid. Gerardo Perdomo, the 9th batter in the lineup, hit 278. So they may just make contact. I think where the Phillies lost the series was game 3, blowing that. chance to put them away because they went up 10. They won 10-0 in game 2, and it was just a wrap. I was listening to Mike Messinelli podcast, the Philadelphia guy, and he said, "This is a mismatch. Anyone says it's a waste of time." He said, "They'll at least got to go in there, take care of business, Arizona. Let's get ready for the World Series." They're not on Philadelphia's level. I thought the Phillies would win in 6. I thought maybe Arizona would get 2, Philly would get 1, like it happened. But Philadelphia blew this series in game 4 when it was 2-1, and the Philadelphia Phillies had a 5-2 lead late. And they put in Craig Kimbrell, which is ineffective. He doesn't have it anymore. And what happened after that is after Christian Walker walked, Alex Thomas, another hero, hits a homer to deep center field, changed the whole momentum. It gave that Diamondbacks life after winning game 3, and the Phillies could have won game 4, and they end up beating them in game 5. If they stop them, they win the game. If they didn't put Kimbrell in, they win the game. It's 3-1, and they win, and they blow it. And kudos to Arizona. They did what they had to do. They whooped the Brewers and whooped the Dodgers. And then they really outlasted the Phillies. The Phillies were beating them, and Phillies had momentum, and it seemed like the Phillies were going to get back to the World Series. And they lost. And another thing, they didn't show up in game 6. And that gave a team like Arizona confidence because they were just blown away and intimidated in Philly. When they came out there, and Philly probably thought they were just going to line up and the home crowd's going to get behind them. When they got that win, they had momentum. And I was like, man, okay. And the Phillies bats went silent. And once the game was tied, Arizona said, listen, we've won here before. And they have a lot of confidence. Baseball's about getting hot and hitting the ball to the other field, and they had a lot. Both teams, because of this new rule in baseball, there were a lot of stolen bases. Both teams, but Arizona did a really good job of stealing the base when they won game 6 and game 7. And I'm going to look at the base stealing total here. They stole 2, 3, 4. They stole 4 bases. And they were always in scoring position, and their hitters hit the ball the opposite field singles, sacrifice flies, doing the little things. You can't always go for the kill and homers all the time. But now Bryce Harper had some good at bats. He was just unlucky because he was able to fly deep both times, but it just didn't work out. And Diamondbacks are going to go play Texas. Texas have home field. Diamondbacks don't care, but I don't want to go against the Diamondbacks again, but it just feels like maybe this is Texas' year because Texas beat the Astros. But hey, man, I think maybe it's because of the World Series atmosphere. I'm going to lean toward Texas because Bochy's been there, done that. Bochy's been to 4 World Series, won 3. I think he's going to win his 4th because of the Corey Seagers and all those guys and Garcia. And Scherzer is pitching better. So Scherzer's due, and Eovaldi is a money pitcher. And they're going to play better at home. But I would never, ever sleep on the Arizona Diamondbacks. It would not surprise me at all if they won this whole thing right now. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They have a lot of poise. I mean, I wasn't as shocked as I was Texas beating Houston because Houston had so much success these last few years and getting to the World Series. I was surprised that Arizona won, but once they won game 6, I was not because it's hard to get there but they're there. And to me, you have to grab hold of this moment and get it because you don't know if you're going to be there. Tony Lovello is showing that he's a great manager, and they did what they had to do to get into the wild card, and he's going against Bochy. And the problem is now a lot of people are going to really watch. I'm a baseball junkie. I'll watch because I'm curious about this matchup, but the Phillies would have brought a lot more eyeballs. Astros are hated. The comments are like, you cheating bums. That's why I'm glad you lost. I think it was the Phillies and Rangers would have been people are looking forward to seeing that with the Philly crowd. Could the Rangers go in there and do that and win in Philadelphia? But Arizona did. I don't know if the ratings are going to be good, but I'm looking forward to it myself. But I've been doing and talking about sports for 20 plus years. So I know when matchups are going to draw and when they're not going to draw. The only way this draws is if it's back and forth and there's a potential game 7. And that game 7 might draw a little bit. Yankees are a draw. If you had the Cubs in Texas, that's a draw. Dodgers, Phillies, the way they kind of had that momentum and the crowd, that would have been a draw, but I don't think this one is. But I do think this is going to be a really good series. Okay, it's time to eat crow. I put the Astros in the World Series. Not a good look for me and my podcast. I am very surprised when Altuve hit that dagger to allow them to go up 3-2, and they're on their way to Houston after losing 2 in Houston. I figured, okay, they're going to get right. This game 6, they're going to get up on them, and they're going to do what World Series champs do. Now, one thing I should have put into the equation, the Astros have a history of blowing 3-2 leads, of losing at home a lot, other than the World Series the World Series they won, and the first one they cheated to win, which I've never recognized, but the last year they played outstanding. They've been solid at home, but they come out and they get blitzed in game 6, and Eovaldi was the co-MVP. Eovaldi was fantastic. Now, Adolis Garcia was after he got hit and he did what he had to do, and they struck him out, and then after he got struck out 3 times, he came in with that dagger homer. I'm like, wow. Astro fans were shocked. I was shocked. I'm like, well, all right, they won 9-2, but the Astros have been there, so I figured they're going to win Game 7. Baldy was great, but Scherzer was solid in Game 7, and they get the lead again, and they destroyed them 11-4, and Montgomery comes in for Scherzer, was fantastic. Christian Javier was terrible. And that's what the Astros didn't have. They didn't have the Charlie Mortons and the Dallas Keuchels. They were a couple pitchers short, and their star pitchers that they had were lousy. Verlander's older. So they got destroyed. And the Texas, their general manager, Chris Young, did a fantastic job putting this team together, and they win the state of Texas championship, which has got to hurt the Astros. They're going on to the World Series with momentum. They are undefeated on the road. Okay? They have, let me see, they're 8-0 on the road. 8-0. You can't get any more impressive than that. That's big time. And now they weren't as good at home this series, but they're going to have home field advantage throughout. And that's going to be very, very interesting. But they are tough-minded. They walk through all that mental tough stuff. Now, Altuve still and Alvarez was great, but the rest of and Bregman was great, but the rest of the hitters didn't show up. You look at Houston. Altuve was great. Bregman was solid. Alvarez batting 400. Abreu was okay. Brantley was lousy. Tucker was lousy. McCormick didn't do nothing. Pena, their star shortstop, did 160. Maldonado 125. Diaz 125. Tucker was 154, and Brantley batted 118. They got nothing out of that. All it was Altuve and Alvarez just trying to carry them, and that wasn't enough against this team, not against Texas. And Corey Seager, of course, is going to get a home run. Mr. Clutch, of course, he's going to get a home run in Game 7. He's just a calm, cool customer. And Garcia, the MVP, was insanely good. And Travis Jaworski was good. Jonah Haim was great. And they're young, and they got veterans. They got a nice mix. And if DeGrom comes back, watch out. Man, watch out. When DeGrom, if he could come back healthy with the season, they're going to be around a while. But they're going to be a pain in the neck, whoever they have to play in the World Series. But the Astros, it was a good run because this Astro fans talking junk. This is 7 appearances, this 7 appearances and 1 real championship. I'm pretty impressed. That was solid. It's not like the Red Sox or the Yankees. The Red Sox have won 4 championships in a span of 18 years. The Yankees in the 90s won 4 championships in 6 years. So it's not that run. And the San Francisco Giants won 3 championships in 6 years. So it's not that run. So, I mean, you could talk junk about what they did and all that stuff, but there was despicable moments from this franchise. There was all-time great moments in this franchise, and there's some clunky moments. I mean, blowing the lead against the Nationals, not winning a single game. The Nationals won 4 games there. The Braves winning all the road games against the Astros. And Soler had that bomb where half the crowd was Braves fans cheering. And then there are times they were consistent. They were tough, the Altuves and Correas and all those guys, but it's going to mess them up is that black mark of the trash cans and what they say, the cheating. And I don't condone it. I have people say, everybody. I don't hear that everybody. That was blatant. And you robbed other teams of a chance to win by you trying to cut corners. But they're gone. I think they're going to be gone for a while. Dusty's going to step down. They're not the type that spends a lot. And those guys are, I don't know if they're aging. They're not playing as good as they were last year. And they don't have the great pitching. And Texas is going to be around. And Baltimore is young, and they're going to be around. And Seattle is going to be around. So you barely got to the playoffs. Texas folded and recovered. They folded in the regular season, they've recovered. And they're going to be a tough out. They're ready to win a championship this year. The home field, they're going to play a lot better at home. All right, NFL. Eagles and Dolphins. That was a great game. The Eagles won by 2 touchdowns, 31-17. It was a game the Eagles really got after them early. Eagle-like touchdown drive. Eagle-like drive for a field goal. Then they scored. It was 17-10. Cheetah drops the ball, 17-17. After Jalen Hurts threw a pick. Okay, from then on, the Eagles took over. Their pass rush got to him. Riddick is a great player. Well, like I said, I'm trying to get him on. Graham. They got inside pressure. They have outside pressure with Fletcher Cox and all those dudes and Brandon Graham. And they started to get, and that's the one weakness of Tua. They started to get after Tua. He didn't have the running game. Tyreek Hill was solid, but they contained him for the most part, except for the 127-yard pass. But it was a long 8-play Philly drive. Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown, 14-yard touchdown. Another stop on another long Philly drive to put away drive. And their last 2 drives, they looked like the Eagles. And their defense got after them. and Hurts was 23 of 31, 279, and their defense was good with Cox. And listen, they need their safety back, Blankenship, but they got Kevin Highland, and he's great for as far as from Tennessee. That's going to shore the safety reserve. They're going to be set. They have talent everywhere, and in the middle, Jalen Carter. It's like they got the Georgia guys. They're big. They're fast. Jalen Carter shoved down the lineman. I believe his name was Wynn to get to Tua, and they imposed their physical will. Now Miami did come back, and from Miami's standpoint, they got beat up a little bit, but they started to impose their own will defensively. They got a little physical defensively. A lot of people were saying, well, Miami got punked. I don't think they did. They fought back now. They were moving the ball. Then the Eagles stuffed them in the fourth quarter, and that's when the Eagles imposed their will. But defensively, their front four with Wilkins and Phillips and Chubb who had 2 sacks. Long was out of the game, and that hurt. When David Long got hurt, they have some injuries. He's out of the game. But Miami, everybody's saying, well, they haven't beaten no good teams. I want to see when Ramsey and Xavier Rhodes comes back. I want to see those guys back in corner and Long back. And they went to Philly and played a good game. This is different from any other year because there's a chance the Dolphins could go to get the division. In my next segment, I'll do the NFL and I'll talk about the Bills, but I think they're going to win the division. So I know they're going to have some home games, but at worst, they might get a 2 seed or 1 seed. It depends on that game in Kansas City and the Dolphins in 2 weeks, which is in London, which is ridiculous. That game should be in Kansas City with Tyreek Hill coming back, but Goodell's so greedy. He's a greedy pig. I'll rarely say nice things and complimentary things about Goodell and his performance. It's underwhelming. You could play a couple of games in England and Frankfurt, I get it, but not that game. Not that game that needs to be in Miami or needs to be in Kansas City. That's Tyreek Hill's first game against the Chiefs, and you blow it by putting it on at 9:30. Utterly incompetent. That's an incompetent leader. He's terrible. All right, now I got that out of the way, but I think Miami will be just fine. They'll get their wins against the good teams. Ramsey will be back. I think he's almost ready. When Dallas goes to South Beach, that's a tough game for Dallas. So unless they get after Tua, Miami could whoop Dallas because without Diggs, or Dallas could whoop Miami because they'll be all over Tua in that backfield with Parsons and his cohorts. So I got to crunch the numbers whenever that game comes up in 2 weeks. I got to see who's healthy and see where that goes. And but the Eagles, I like how they played. The only thing I want to see out of the Eagles is my guy Swift, who came over from Detroit. I want to see him get the 9 and 10. He got 4 or 5. He had a couple good runs. If they don't trade for Henry, I actually think the Lions should get Henry because I think the Eagles are going to stay with Swift and Gainwell. But Swift, I need a little more out of that running game to give me 10 yards, give me 11 yards like they were doing in the playoffs and the way they normally play. Because now what that does, now A.J. Brown, who had a monster game, can get really good single coverage, and Smith and Goddard, who was very good too. A.J. Brown is an amazing specimen. I just looked at his arms. I said, this guy's ridiculous. A.J. Brown had 10 receptions, 137 yards, and the 42-yard touchdown. He just grabbed over a double team, but that was 2 guys that weren't Brown's size, he just overwhelmed them and just snatched the ball and scored. Well, he got to the goal line, and he was great. And then Smith was better. He had 4 receptions. Goddard was great. I mean, Goddard, Smith, and Brown is just, and then you get Swift out of the backfield. That's a nice complimentary. They just and their defense, and now they got the top safety from the Titans, and it's just they're ready. I could see either them versus Miami or Kansas City. Miami Kansas City game is going to be huge because if the Chiefs got to go to South Beach, as good as the Chiefs are playing, that's going to be interesting. So I'm going to get to the NFL, all the rest of the NFL next. All right, rest of the NFL, Ravens destroyed the Lions, and it was that game where the Lions heard all the press clippings. So you got to be careful. Look at the 49ers now. When you're thinking, okay, man, we are there. And the Ravens had lost. Well, they're desperate to win this game and stay afloat in the AFC, to stay up top, and they were great. Now they're saying, oh, this is why we believe they're going to the Super Bowl. The Ravens. This is more of an anomaly. Usually they're in the 20-ish, 24-point range. Lamar was great. 3 TDs. He was super efficient. 21, 27, 357. And Andrews was great. And defensively, they got after Goff, and they didn't run. I said, if Detroit could run a little bit, they got a chance to win. They didn't. They had no chance. They were off. Goff 33 of 53. You're way off. That's way off. And kudos to the Ravens for playing a complete game. Now, I don't know if some of the pundits expecting this the rest of the year. Now, let's relax. Now, they go beat the 49ers in Frisco. Okay, like this, I get you. But they got Cincinnati and they got the 49ers coming up. Even Cleveland could be tough. Sticking to the AFC, what are you doing if you're the Bills? I mean, the Patriots win that game, and it was Josh Allen, just skittish and looked unsure of himself in the press conference. It's not the end of the world. Well, yeah, we know, but come on, man. Let's just. And his QBR is 90. He's supposed to be a superstar. And then the Bills defense just cracked under pressure as New England drove down for the final score. And you could see the frustration on the coach when New England scored. They just screamed, I can't believe we just lost this game. Yeah, you did. You did. And now that's going to cost them because Miami already won in New England. I just think Miami's going to win that division. The Jets are going to be a pain in the neck. I actually think that they're going to play Buffalo really. They always play Buffalo tough. So that's not a gimme. The most intriguing game of those 2 Jet Miami games because of what Robert Saleh said. We've embarrassed the star quarterbacks. You don't think that's in Tyreek Hill and Tua's locker room? And okay. Okay. So you just think you're going to come and embarrass us against us? The Jets defense is wicked. So that's the Miami offense versus Jet defense. Can Miami do what the Eagles and Bills did? They play at the Jets the 24th of November. And then they got the Jets again and 3 weeks later at home in South Beach on the 17th. But the 24th of November, that's a Friday. Okay. That's different. But I believe that might be, yeah. That is a Friday game? Okay. But I think that's a Black Friday game. That's going to be interesting with the Jet crowd, how great they are, and they're intense, and they kind of, I won't say intimidated Chiefs, but they shook them up a little bit. They shook up the Eagles, and when they beat them, they had the Bills shook. And now you can get after Tua and those guys a little bit, but Tua is deadly accurate. He reminds me of Ken Stabler, the old quarterback for the Raiders, left-hander. Nice. accurate, nice ball, throws a nice ball. But the Jets defense and Robert Saleh and those dudes, that's going to be fun. But in the meantime, the Dolphins have the Patriots at home, and they're going to whoop the Patriots. That was the Patriots Super Bowl last week. And then that stupid location game Deutsche Bank Park, ridiculous. That should be in Arrowhead or South Beach. But you know what? That's Goodell and his short-sightedness and stupidity. If that's Miami and New England and London, okay, fine. You got your star team. Okay. You can't have the most important game of the season at 9:30 in the morning overseas. That's idiocy. But he did anyway. Now let me go on and talk about the rest of the AFC. The Colts lost the game because of a bad call against the Browns. Now, this is a tough game for me because as a still fan for the Browns, I love PJ Walker. I've known him since the 10th grade. I've told you that before. But Jonathan Taylor, I got to know him this summer. So it's like the New Jersey Bowl. So it was hard to watch to see who was going to win, who was going to lose. But I mean, Walker got him down there and they ended up scoring. It was a bad call at the end, but there's a lot. College, Houston University got screwed over a bad placement by Texas. There's a lot of bad calls. Bad call, face mask call against the Dolphins. They didn't call, and then they call the ticky tack one against the Colts. They're all over the place. They got to do better. They got to be some type of meeting because that's going to cost the team a season. It might have cost the Colts a season. But anyway, the Chiefs took care of the Chargers. Chargers played them close, but they have a lousy coach, and the Chiefs have Mahomes, and Herbert can't get home, can't untie the game when they have a chance to tie the game. They had the ball with a 17-17, couldn't do nothing. 24-17, couldn't do that. And Kansas City has that put away touchdown. And Kelsey always gets open, but I think what was big was scaling, but Rashid Rice is becoming a little bit of a star here. Scanlon did good, but Rice is becoming a trustworthy recipient for the Chiefs. And now the Rams and the Steelers were able to steal that game. Rams missed some field goals, and they were able to steal another game. They're like thieves. They stole the Browns game. They stole the Ravens game. They stole the Rams game. It was like incredible. So they're going to have to steal the Jaguar game. The Jaguars are very good, and they'll be favored, and they're a little better than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh will be home. Can they make like thieves, like Jack the Ripper, and steal another one? I don't know. But in the NFC, I think the Lions, the biggest game in the NFC was the 49ers losing to the Vikings. And the Vikings, I'm going to tell you something. Brian Flores is doing a number in Minnesota. He's doing a really good job with that defense. They have a lot of no names. He's coaching them up, and he's a man-to-man guy. But this year they went zone, and they really confused Purdy. And Minnesota made some bad mistakes. They missed field goals. They missed extra points. They should have went for it instead of punting the ball. There was a lot of bad mistakes, but Purdy with a chance to take the lead through two bad interceptions. And I thought he was going to come through, and that was a big moment. And he has not dealt well with pressure because when he's on schedule, he's lethal. Well, a lot of quarterbacks on schedule are lethal. But like Mahomes could throw the ball off schedule, and the guys that can do it in traffic, throw the ball in traffic, those are the quarterbacks that are money under pressure, and that's what Herbert is. And Brock Purdy still has to develop. This is only his second year, and Debo not being there was big. And Kittle's got to do better. Kittle had 78 yards, 5 receptions. He was decent. Ayuk was shut down, and Jennings was okay, but McCaffrey had 45 yards rushing. So there you have it. That's the NFC and AFC. It's next week will be big. I think the Niners will bounce back against Cincinnati, so we shall see. Okay, the first game of the season went as I thought. The Nuggets beat the Lakers 119 to 107. There was a lot of talk. Oh, we're going to get revenge for all that talk that Malone said and Bron's daddy and Carl Pope was like, yeah, we're going to beat them jokers, man. Come on. LA Val revenge. Listen, God rest his soul. Kobe would be all over this game. Oh, they wouldn't have said that. Caldwell Pope, none of them would have said that because Kobe would be like, okay. Because he made George Karl pay the rest of George Karl's career. He's never going to lose it. I'm never losing to Denver. LeBron's a great player, but he's not that kind of guy, So they were comfortable talking the way they did. And I knew there was not going to be no revenge game. LeBron and AD are not built like that. They're great twosome that did win a championship, but he's older and AD's not going to outshine Jokic. As long as Jokic is automatic good possessions every time down court. That's why they won 119, 107. 29 points, 11 assists, 13 rebounds. 3 of 5 from 3. So he did everything. And AD can't match that. AD he gave you some. He gives you 17 and 8 rebounds, but it's not, he's minus 17. And Jokic is plus 15. And Murray's solid. He's going to give you 21. And Carl Pope gave you 20. That's really bad. He's 8 of 12 from the field. And then Gordon's going to give you 15, and Porter is going to give you 12. So they're 5. They've won the championship. So they're an autopilot. And I figured, and they got Reggie Jackson, which I like as a player. So Denver's not worried about LA. They're going to beat LA during the season, unless LA. See, I always thought LA should have traded their stars, and I think they will. They're going to trade these young guys for another guy like a Beal, like what his Suns did when they got Beal. I think Trae Young is a type of guy that they need that's clutch to go along with Reeves and to go along with their young, maybe keep some of the young players. I would do that because I don't think they're definitely not a championship team. They're a playoff team. Denver is solid. Now listen, I get all the trash talk about LA. That's not the problem. The problem is going to be Golden State. For whatever reason, they match up good against Denver. I don't understand that because they're not tall, and Golden State doesn't match up good with LA. So if Golden State could not play LA, and they'll get another big. They know how to create a team and get who they need. And they with Chris Paul and Curry, they've been playing together for years. Draymond, he gets under Jokic's skin. I don't know if he can this year, but the team I like that's really going to be good is OKC. Giddy is a stud. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Western Conference playoffs, doing what they have to. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is a superstar. Josh Giddey is another star. I love OKC this year. I love New Orleans if Zion's playing good. So this is going to be a good year. I don't know if Denver's going to get back because there's a lot of other better teams. Maybe D Rose helps Memphis, and they're not knuckleheads this year when Ja Morant comes back. But Denver and Golden State, I'm looking at. Phoenix, if they've been getting beat by 40 and 50 in closeout games. So I need to see better than what I've seen out of Phoenix. But Beal is a nice pickup. Nurkic is good. I'm tempted to say Phoenix could come out if they could get over their big game woes in closeout games. I love Milwaukee. Boston's Boston. Does Porzingis, is he going to be healthy? They don't have Smart, but sometimes Smart played hero ball, so that could be a problem sometimes. So they don't have that there. Um, but they're clutch and unclutch. They're all over the place when the playoffs come. But Dame and Giannis, I love. And Middleton coming back healthy. And they'll probably add a guy because Milwaukee, they're smart enough to do that. I want to. My dream matchup is Milwaukee versus Golden State or Milwaukee versus Phoenix. I mean, I'm a Laker fan, so I love to see Milwaukee and LA. That's not happening. I don't think they're good enough to do that. They're one superstar trade away to give LeBron a little bit of a break at his age and to make AD the set 1A, not the guy, because he's not the guy, but he's almost the guy. But Dame and Giannis are going to be great together. Man, I love it. But I'm looking forward to the NBA. Is interesting start. Now, Beal is load managing, so I'm not even going to talk about the last game. Whether they win or lose, I don't. I'm not cool with that. I was so looking forward to talking about that game, Golden State and Phoenix. But Beal's not playing. So if Phoenix loses, they're like, okay, if we had Beal, we'd have won. So I don't like that load managing the first game of the year. All right, when it comes to college football, congratulations to Alabama for outscoring Tennessee 27-0 in the second half, and Milroe was uh, 222 TDs. He was fantastic. McClellan 115 yards rushing. They're solid on defense. They're getting better. That's what Nick Saban does. Okay, now I want to talk about Lincoln Riley. This segment's about USC and how incompetent their defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch, is. And Lincoln Riley, if you want to come to USC and try to win that championship, you got to get a real coordinator. That was ridiculous. Losing to Utah, the game 34-32, the game was a USC pace early when it was 14-14, back and forth. They were really Simone Vaki was great. He caught a 53-yard touchdown, and he had a good game. It was 14-14. And then the third quarter, the game turned into a Utah punch you in the face, run the ball game. And they ended up 28-14 and all looked lost. And I didn't like that they kicked the field goal, USC, but that was kind of smart to cut the lead to 11. They ended up getting a pick six, and now they're back in, and they're right there. And then Utah gets a field goal, so now SC kicks a field goal, so they're playing soccer. And then all of a sudden, they finally break through after a long punt return by Branch, and they score. And now with 152 left and the lead, and they didn't convert on 2-point conversion. Lousy. 2 times they tried 2-point conversions, and both of them were lousy plays. And then the fourth quarter, the last drive, and this is what really, really upset. Utah is such a tough, gritty team that I like their style. But it looked like they were in trouble at USC's 40. And Bryson Barnes, the backup quarterback, catches the ball. They didn't pass the ball at all on this drive. He runs 26 yards untouched to get to the USC 19 and they end up winning the game. That is as undisciplined and poor. And their defense shows flashes because they have talent, but that was the most undisciplined play I've ever saw. He wasn't even a great runner. The backup quarterback, he runs like he was jogging down the field for that long run, and they end up winning, and they're tougher than USC. And I'm getting a little nervous about Caleb Williams. Watching him, he's a great arm talent. He can just make great throws. But Lincoln Riley's, other than Jalen Hurts, who's really an Alabama guy. I don't care what anybody says. He did play good at Oklahoma, but he swears he's the Alabama guy and he hangs out with all the Alabama guys. They talk about him in Alabama. But every one of Lincoln Riley's quarterbacks is a little bit of a gimmick. Kyler Murray, kind of gimmicky. Baker, kind of gimmicky. And Caleb Williams doesn't stay in the pocket. And there's the way their offense is, he's always out of the pocket, flinging the ball downfield, kind of having fun, playing street ball. I just wonder about him in the NFL, and I don't know about his temperament. He makes me nervous. He's the best talent as far as the arm strength, but just the intangibles, I don't know about him. Now they're out of it now. So they blew their opportunity. So I'm not going to see Michigan and USC, but Michigan still can hold their end of the bargain up. Maybe Michigan, Bama, maybe Michigan, Washington would be good. Oregon and Utah is playing a huge game because Washington is undefeated, but Oregon, they're still in it. And Utah's still in it. You know, they only have one loss. They ended up losing to Oregon State. They did not play good at all. But their backup quarterback, Ken Rising, I don't know if he's going to come back, but even without him, as tough as they play on both sides of the ball in a physical style, though that game against Oregon is just, that's must-see TV at 3:30 in Utah. And Bo Nix has a chance to win the big game on the road. But as far as the Pac-12, you're probably Oregon, USC is going to be huge. USC's kind of out of it, even if they win the Pac-12, they'll keep them out. But if Utah could beat Oregon and they beat Washington in the Pac-12, they'll be in it. So the one loss doesn't mean as much. The two losses does. And USC got blown out by Notre Dame. So please, you're gonna have to miss me at USC. Very disappointed. Disappointed in Lincoln Riley again. Just can't win that game. Can't be that guy that wins the big one. Just can't. You know, and Washington's undefeated. And there's so many good Washington. I believe they're going to play Oregon. I mean, not Oregon. Utah home versus Utah, the 11th. Man, the Pac-12 is loaded, and that's the game. That's the next great game. So I'm really excited about the Pac-12. And Ohio State beat Penn State, but I knew that was going to happen. They're 1-10 versus Penn State versus Ohio State and Michigan. James Franklin couldn't win with Barkley and Parsons and McSorley and Sanders on the same team. Please, I don't trust him.